everyone. Welcome to Inside the Birds Postgame Live. It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan, and we're joined, of course, by Eagles Hall of Fame left tackle Trey Thomas. The Eagles have just completed what we all thought was going to happen, a 40-33 win over the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football at the Link. There's a lot to discuss here. We got more than 500 yards of offense by the Eagles, more than 350 rushing yards by the Eagles, a high-scoring game that none of us predicted, at least Trey, Adam, and I did not think it was going to be a high-scoring game. A lot of points, a lot of intrigue. We'll start the show like we always do, Trey, with you. Just your big picture before we analyze anything. The Eagles winning, getting their 10th win, and in a very intriguing way. What was your big picture takeaway? And by the way, for those who didn't know, Trey was at the game, helping honor both Trent Cole and Hugh Douglas, who have entered now the Hall of Fame. So now you got some classmates with you there. What was that whole experience in the game like to you?
I had a blast. There's been a lot of red wine that's been taken in, and just enjoying my time with the guys. I'm not invited to a lot of events just because when I get around my guys, I have no sense. So, it was always good, to be around the guys. I'm always the last one to get shooed off by security and all the people that are there to kind of make sure that we stay in line. I'm always outside of the line. And so I had a blast. I had a good time. Just being around the guys around Hugh Douglas and Trent Cole, guys that I used to beat down daily in practice, and I always remind them that, you should thank me, for, helping you.
Yes.
Because I used to beat you down every day in practice, and now we're celebrating you, and you're welcome. So
I hope they both thanked you in their speeches there. We didn't get to watch the speeches on TV.
Yeah, so it was fun. It's always fun, man. Whenever you get a chance to hang around with the guys, it's always a good time. Mm-hmm. And but it was good to just see these guys and for us to pull off this win, and also to see John Jr. John Runyon's son, just someone that we've watched growing up, and someone that I even worked out a couple of times when he came out of Michigan. I worked with him a couple of times just to work on some stuff. I text him every now and then after I watch a game just to see him go out and play. That was fun to just experience all of that. It was Runyon's birthday today, so it was just a big celebration.
Wow, crazy. What about your thoughts on the game, your big picture takeaway from this win?
That we did enough that we came out of there. We did enough to get the win. Jalen Hurts comes out there, leads the team in rushing. He breaks a record with the most rushing yards as a quarterback. I think that we came out with a win, and that's all we need to do. Just come out of this with a win. It was not good to see CJ go down, but 32. Who everybody was kind of like, hey, he just got an interception. Who is that guy? Everybody was just looking through for who is that guy that just got an interception, stepped in and had a really good game. I think that we came out of there. We did what we needed to do to get a win.
Absolutely. Adam, what did you think about how this game unfolded? Certainly not the way either of us saw it going into the game.
No, the only thing I got right is I said I feel the Eagles are going to come out running the football. I mean, my goodness gracious. Hurts and Sanders combined for 300 yards rushing. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Just simply incredible. Look, they got issues. They got plenty of issues coming out of this game on defense. We'll get into that later. But the big picture look is that they won the game. They kept running. And Cosell talked about this in our pregame show. What's interesting is they've done this a bunch where they've come out running in the third quarter. And they did it in this game, which was interesting. Now, obviously, the Rodgers injury changed things, but not quite the way anyone would think, because Jordan Love came out firing, and he as Collinsworth was talking about, he really knows the offense. But the big picture thing is, as Trey said, they found a way to win. There's plenty to clean up. Hurts is going to be very sore. He took a lot of hits tonight.
Very much.
He dished out some punishment, and they got to face the Titans here in Philly. We're coming off of a tough loss at home. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a physical game. And a lot of guys are going to be sore and tired. This was a very interesting game because the first half, Geoff, as you were telling me at halftime, I forgot how long ago I looked at it. I'm like, whoa, what is this, like an hour and 45?
Oh, man, this was like the first quarter alone felt like a game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. Yeah.
So I'm just going to say, overall, Trey said it best. They won the game. There's a crap load to clean up on defense. Their defense was terrible. Let's just call it like, well, they were awful.
Very bad.
They're very lucky to win. Blankenship did a great job coming in, actually led them in total tackles, combined tackles with 6. It was good to see Fletcher Cox get some pass rush, but overall, offense, the running game, unbelievable, astronomically great. I can't even believe what they did. We knew they could, and we know you could run on the Packers. We talked about in the pregame, that's not hard to do, and they took it to the nth degree. But defensively, lots to clean up.
Fellas, my viewpoint on this in this game of wild plays, not much defense, really a lot of intrigue with Jordan Love coming in there at the end, and we'll get to this. It's just some pretty awful special teams again for the Eagles. My takeaway is it was actually a defensive play that became the turning point and really changed this game. And this game was won by the Eagles on the first 2 possessions of the third quarter. The Packers came out with I think they're only 3 and out. Rodgers got sacked by Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham. It was like a little tandem sack there. He clearly got hurt on that sack, and he was not himself after that, and then shortly he would come out. And then right after that Green Bay punt is when the Eagles, as you just mentioned, Adam, they decided to be, and they were sort of balanced. They ran a little, but in that drive after the sack, they just went run, and you saw 20 yards for Miles Sanders and 8 more, and then 28 from Sanders inside, and then that set up the A.J. Brown touchdown. And to me, when the Eagles went up 34-20, that's it. Now, I know that there were more points scored, but I felt, we talked about this in the pregame show. Jason Avant made a really good point about how the Packers this year have just been playing from behind all year long. And that's really difficult to do, whether you're Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love, or whoever. And it's not something they've been accustomed to, which is part of the reason why they're having such a bad year, even though they're not a terrible team, but they're having an obviously terrible year. But right there, that sack on Rodgers, he gets hurt. They have to punt. Eagles go right down and score 34-23. 34-20. That was such a critical stretch. And I think we've seen this a couple of times now this year. When there's instability, when there's uncertainty, when things aren't going exactly how you want it to go for the Eagles, they just go to the run game, and 99 times out of 100, it just comes through.
And they did in the first half. I mean, they ran the ball for 183 yards in the first half. It was something else. Hurts was just, every time you think he can't run in the ball again, he does, and he jukes the guy. Boy, the juke move's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty more, and I'll tell you what, Sanders. Another point here. I look at my notes here. The other thing that I love is he's getting the hard yards. He did not really do that last year as well as he should have. Mm-hmm. And getting those dirty yards, which is the tough inside runners have to get. And boy, did they gashed him on inside trap plays. My goodness gracious, wham blocks. It was something else, Trey. I don't know about you, Trey, but I was in total awe of what the offensive line did tonight.
They did a good job of just mixing it up, sending different guys. You coming up there, you're leading Lane up in there. You sending Jordan Mailata a couple of times in there. That's always been a good staple of their offense, and mixing some of that in. And then just Jalen Hurts again, when he drops back and he says, okay, you know what? One of the plays that really stood out to me is when they sent the running back in motion, and then now you have a five-guy box, and then Kelsey just runs up on the linebacker, and then Hurts just follows behind him, and then there's no one there. He just takes off up the field. So I think that they did a really good job of just scheming up some runs and just making sure that they can gash this defense.
One thing that really stood out to me, Trey, before we move on a second, I wanted to ask you, because you were there up front, you got to observe it. Man, if I'm an NFL player or a former NFL player like yourself, who's sipping some wine and enjoying myself, I might look at this game and think, I'm glad I'm in that position, because I thought that both teams ran hard and hit hard. I know that the Packers missed a ton of tackles. We'll get into that. But, there was that one play where Hurts kept it and looked like he was going in, and 2 guys just came and knocked his mouth guard off. I thought Sanders and Dillon and Jones and even some of the receivers, Cobb, AJ Brown, they were either giving out big hits or absorbing big hits. This was like kind of old school. I know it was a high score, but I don't know if being that close you could like hear it or feel it. But this was definitely a sort of slobber knocker in that regard.
Yeah, it was a physical game. I mean, anytime you go up against the Green Bay Packers, it's a physical game, and there were some big hits in this game. And guys you got to work through that. This is the games that you want to go out there and that this is going to be a physical one. this is what they say the double chin strap game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you need double chin straps, even though I've never seen one play. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? It's a double chin strap game. Strap up both of them. Let's go get it.
Yeah, you're probably happy to just be on the sidelines with the red wine at that point.
Yeah, just hanging out. I'm having a blast.
Just hanging out.
Hey, you know
just
that
glad
Wednesday,
it's not me.
Yeah, exactly. You know that Wednesday walkthrough, they're not going to have one. It's going to be a crawl through.
Oh my god.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine how it just seemed being at home when we were watching it. It seemed like really physical. This was quite a game. And the weather cleared up. It stopped raining before the game.
Mm-hmm.
But the Eagles were the first quarter. They were throwing it, they're running it, and then when they just started having a little bit more success, and then Hurts broke their backs as the game went along. It was just something to see. I mean, you get concerned when quarterbacks are running so much, but he's so strong physically. I'm going to be interested to see what their approach is because they're playing a Titans team this Sunday. Super physical defense, one of the best fronts in the NFL. And what will their approach be? That's going to be fascinating.
It definitely will be. All right. Let me tell you about our friends at NordVPN. We have been talking on the Inside the Birds podcast about the importance of having a virtual private network, a VPN that makes sure that your data is encrypted. It's like a little tunnel that they create that encrypts your data and protects your identity and information by hiding your IP address. It means you can go online from almost anywhere safely and securely. You get that extra layer of protection. You can either secure your online data, you can get blocked websites if you're overseas. A lot of people travel overseas. They want to get American websites that are blocked by their foreign government. So you can use that. You can do that when you have NordVPN. It just basically gives you, especially if you're a public Wi-Fi user, that secure feeling of knowing that someone's not injecting malware into your computer or trying to spy on your information. And of course, you don't want that unlawful government surveillance going on as well if you're worried about that. So whether you're a gamer, a freelance journalist, a traveler, or just a student who doesn't like to use the school Wi-Fi because millions of other kids are using it and you try to go to the local coffee shop instead, a business person who's out and about, it helps everyone. So get your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/ITB to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan. Plus, you get 4 months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All right, let us start with the Eagles offense. Just an amazing breakout when you consider that a lot of our pregame show was dedicated to talking about not having Dallas Goedert last week. The offense was not as functional as we've seen it before. Really, going back to the Washington game, they were well below their season average. Well, tonight, what do? They go out and score 40 points, which I believe is their season high. So what an amazing turnaround. And as you mentioned, Adam, it starts with the run. Trey, the first thing that stood out to me, Jalen Hurts had 106 rushing yards in the first quarter. And I'm just curious as someone, who knows the X's and O's real well, what was Green Bay doing? Because it looked like there were times they just left the middle of the field open for him to run into it. It was almost like a red carpet rollout there.
I think a lot of that was scheme with the formations,
Okay.
and when you go back and you look at how they schemed them out, they spread them out, and then now when you go back and you say most defenses are playing nickel, everybody's going to play nickel, and that means that one of those linebackers has to take the running back. So that means that you only have two linebackers that's in the middle of the field and one of those guys has the running back as man. And when you send the running back, just send him off to the left. Hey, you go take off to the left. Then one of those linebackers has to take off. And then now all that leaves is 5 offensive linemen to block the 4 D linemen, and then one linebacker that's in the middle that's Kelsey. You can send Kelsey up to or whatever. Or if you say, all right, you want to spy, then Jalen Hurts is quick enough and agile enough to juke him. So I think that a lot of it was schemed and it just worked out. There were times where you just rushed for, all right, Jalen Hurts says, all right, I can see the gap. Boom, I shake that linebacker that you have there as a spy, and then now we're off and running because everybody else is trying to cover the receivers that we have running down the field, which played into our hands.
So you're saying the Packers came out in a lot of man defense that enabled the Eagles to scheme it that way?
It could be man. It could be it's just a nickel formation.
Okay.
It could be, it's the nickel formation. You can play zone, man, whatever it is. But if someone has to take that running back. Mm-hmm. Even no matter what, somebody has to take that running back. And once you do that, then it just opens everything up. Even if you don't take the running back, when you have a nickel front, now they're saying, all right, my 5 offensive linemen are going to go up to that linebacker. We're going to scheme it up, and we can take on those 2 linebackers with our blocking formation. Now all that leaves is the backside defensive end. Mm-hmm. That leaves the backside defensive end or the safety that's going to have to come down. And if that's so, so it can be man zone. It doesn't matter. It's all about the box.
Yeah, it becomes a numbers game at that point.
It's a numbers game. And our 5, and I take my 5 against your 5 all day.
Yeah, and they changed that numbers game pretty quickly after the first quarter because they started switching up what they were doing defensively and doing a little bit better job of defending the Jalen Hurts run, but not so much the running back run. Adam, we've talked about Jalen Hurts. Is he and his running ability going to be the response for not having Dallas Goedert? And now two games in a row, he's in double-digit rushing, 17 rushes, 157 yards, 9.2 average. I mean, he had about 5 runs, I believe, of 20 or more yards. So it's hard to hate on that. It's hard to be upset with it. But at the same point, as we talked about, he took a couple of shots too.
He did.
So
I know
they're walking a fine line here.
That's what we're talking about in the pregame show. The cumulative impact of how many times he gets hit and gets thrown to the ground. Mm-hmm. That's what you worry about over a series of months and weeks and years. But he's still young. He's built obviously very solidly. It's something they're going to have to discuss at some point, how much they really want to run him, but it's working now. And by the way, this is an interesting number. I kind of thought this was the case. He has not thrown the ball for over 28 times in his last 6 games, which is almost like last year. He threw it less, it was around 25 times per game. But that's amazing because it wasn't like this to start the season. He's averaging 26 and a half attempts per game over his last 6 games. And obviously they've won 5 of them. And it's working because, as we talk about in the pregame, Hurts is a big part of the run game. So is Sanders, who's taken this game to another level. And they are, other than the Washington game, really, they're not really falling behind. And they're able to run the ball, and they're getting off the ball. And I just love what they're doing in the third quarter. They're typically, if the game is close, you come out in the third quarter, you still throw the football. But they actually try to run, and they were having such success, they just stayed with it. And it was the craziness of it was like they kept running it and running it and running it and running it and not throwing it. And Green Bay didn't change anything. I was to the point with Sanders. I'm like, is Sanders going to last? They keep giving the ball consecutive run. And Green Bay didn't change anything. Joe Barry, we talked about this in the pregame. He gets a lot of criticism around the league for their defense. I hate to say this term. It's not fair, but I'll repeat what other people have told me privately, that they run a soft defense. Supremely talented defense. They don't play up to the talent level. This is embarrassing what happened today. Trey talked about the guys getting upfield.
Yeah.
Like, what did you do to adjust? This cannot happen. You can't.
Yeah, let me.
Play like
I do think there was a little. I thought I and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, Trey. I thought that they were putting more bodies in the A gaps and started funneling pressure up the middle after Hurts kept burning them up the middle. But I thought that the Green Bay did a terrible job tackling. I mean, Quay Walker himself must have missed 6 to 8. Number 7 must have missed 6 to 8 tackles right at the point of attack that helped like a 3 to 5 yard or 2 to 3 yard run become 5, 6, and then sometimes 15 and 20. I mean, we have to see the all 22 when it comes out, but I thought it was really from the second quarter on that Green Bay's tackling was a real problem. Of course, they got exhausted by the end.
Just want to add, they should have called timeout. That was embarrassing. When you're getting gashed like that, call timeout. Just regroup and what are you doing to stop them? Really, that's what that was the story of the game. Their inability to get off the field, and then obviously, Jeff, on your point, which is very good, they were gashed. They were exhausted. You could just tell, like they just didn't have it.
Yeah, that was a good example, Trey. Of sometimes the Eagles fans really used to get on past coaches, Big Red, Doug, for not sort of when you see a weakness. You got to go at it. If you think they're gashed, you got to go run at them. And I know offensive linemen, I'm sure you would have loved to have played in a game like this where you just see a defensive front getting worn down and you're just punishing them snap after snap.
Yes, because, especially when it comes to the run game, that's when you are really in Jeff Stoutland's wheelhouse. This is something that he thrives off of, and this is something that he is really good as a coach. when it comes to scheming up run and making sure that his guys understand what they're doing when it comes to zone runs. I mean, that's where he really thrives as a coach and working combination blocks. Now, one of the things Green Bay did do is they tried to make sure that the end stayed disciplined and stayed running upfield to kind of help funnel Jalen Hurts back into the box. But Jalen Hurts isn't the typical running quarterback. And I almost said running back. He's not the typical quarterback. Like most of the time, let's just take Romo back when he was a quarterback back in the day. You always knew once he saw pressure, he would always loop out to the left. So he would always circle out to the left. Once pressure came, he would always circle out to the left. Jalen Hurts isn't like that. He sees pressure, he gets up into it. He starts reading blocks like he's a running back, which isn't necessarily something that you see a lot of quarterbacks do, but he's that type of guy. So, that's what makes it hard on defensive fronts. And once you start wearing down the defense, then now you're all in Jeff Stoutland's, who just put out a tweet today where I had to go and talk to his son today and say, look, man, hey, look, was that your dad that put that tweet out? Because I want to make sure it is him before I follow him. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want just somebody that's just putting a name on a Twitter account. But
I thought the same thing when I saw it. I was like, that's tweet.
I
missed it.
I want to make sure, I want to confirm that the tweet that you guys saw today, that is actually Coach Stoutland's Twitter account.
Obviously,
I verified it from his son.
Did you read it in his New York accent, though?
Right. But wait, what was the tweet? I didn't see it. What was it?
I don't know. He was in a shirt that was. I don't know. It was something. It was something with
Stoutland University.
Stoutland University.
Yeah.
Kelsey was wearing one of those. Yeah.
Yes. So the tweet that came out today, that was actually from Coach Stoutland. Yes.
How about that?
So he's on Twitter.
I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm sure it'll be a fun thing.
I'm kind of on the fence on it.
I can't imagine.
I'm on the fence on it.
Big play right before half, right, is when Jalen Hurts throws just an absolutely beautiful spiral to Quez Watkins for the 30-yard touchdown. Now, Quez is not like wide open. We're used to seeing Quez catch some passes when he's wide open because of his speed. That was an interesting one, Adam, because Quez was actually lined up on the outside, not from the slot.
Yep.
And it was a beautiful deep ball thrown by Jalen Hurts, who consistently shows he is now becoming one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL, if he's not the best. But it makes me question this, though, because on a night when he averaged, he may have had his lowest yards per attempt average at 5.5 of the season. He does that. I feel like at times the Eagles have gotten, especially over the last 2 or 3 weeks, sort of conservative. They're not taking as many deep shots down the field as they used to. Now I'm criticizing a team that just scored 40 points. So bear with me here. I'm really thinking more ahead, but do you get the same feeling for a guy who throws such a beautiful deep ball that, I don't know, that something happened weeks 2 through 6 where he was throwing them all over the place. And then ever since it feels like it's not been there.
Well, here's the problem. They have nothing in the middle of the field. They cannot open the middle of the field. So that makes the vertical throws, they're almost all in the same area. They're two outside the numbers. It's going to catch up to them. This defense that they're playing Sunday, I know the Titans lost, but they did a good job in Cincinnati. Cincinnati didn't have Jamar Chase, so that helped them. But the fact of the matter is, when you face better defenses, you're going to have to work the middle of the field. They're just going to have to. They're going to have to get those bang 8 plays with A.J. Brown over the middle. They got to get some different stuff going. But hey, their offense still scored 40 points, as you said. The Packer defense isn't very good. People can blame Aaron Rodgers all they want, but they're 4-8 because their defense is a big part of the problems.
Yeah,
they just have not played anywhere near to the talent level they had, and I give the Eagles credit. They saw something on tape, and yes, they did miss a lot of tackles, but they crushed them on inside plays. It was really like relentless. I loved it. I'm not people who watch our show forever know I'm not a run game guy at all. I want to throw the football, but geez. Run it down when they can't stop you, as you were talking about, keep running it. And they didn't want any part of it. It was unbelievable. I still cannot. I was in kind of awe of what they were able to do.
Yeah, it sort of reminded me of the Saints game last year at the Link. Saints had the #1 rushing defense, and the Eagles ran for over 300 yards. And it seemed at times they ran at will on them, and that was a great Saints rushing defense. Trey, I want to ask you this about A.J. Brown, who has now fumbled, I believe, in 2 consecutive games. Same style too. It's what I would call a try hard fumble. I mean, he's trying to get extra yards. It's not like I don't want to say he's being careless. He is, but what he's trying to do is reverse course because he has great sort of stop ability, and he's not noticing that the guy behind him is still there and jarring the ball out. So what would your coaching point be to him besides hold on to the ball, bro?
Yeah, it's just hold on to the ball. I mean, you had all these drills after the Quez Watkins fumble where, they had the punching glove that's on the end of a stick and they got everybody popping up off the ground. And
that was like out of the Jetsons, man.
just hold on to the ball. I mean, I don't know. But
he also makes a career, like his sort of calling card is that ability to catch that in breaker, right? Stop, reverse, and go out the other way, and he even made a big play on it. So, how do you coach that into him without like taking the aggression away?
I don't know. And then he just came off the flu. He had the sniffles. You know what I'm saying? He's saying like, we're just gonna give him some excuses. He was a little under the weather.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
well, we'll see.
let's just give him a little under.
These one possession games, those things really hurt them.
Now, if it happens next week, then we tear into him. But today, he just started practicing. He had a tummy issue.
Ladies and gentlemen, Trey Thomas has gone soft. I can't believe it.
I have. I've converted.
By the way, Eagles are up 14-0. You're there at the link, and it must have felt like game over. I was at rocket. I mean, compare that to what happened when it was 14-14 or 14-13, I should say.
Yeah, 13. We're up 13-0. And I'm like, wait a minute, we just missed an extra point?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there next to Akers, and I'm sitting there with Trot and Dog, and we're talking about it, and they're like, well, they moved the extra point back. I'm like, no, they didn't. What are you talking about? So we had to talk to Akers about this, and they moved the field goal back 13 yards. And we talked about this a little bit, and Akers said it's a significant, distance that they've moved this back for kickers.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen a historic number of missed extra points over the last 2 or 3 years.
I feel like this is what you do. I mean, this is what you do. I mean, you don't, this is your whole training camp. Don't miss the extra point.
Yeah. And by the way, they practiced that all week throughout the regular season as well, right? I mean,
yes. I mean, this is what you do. I mean, like most kickers are great golfers because their body never hurts. Because you don't hit, you just hang out. You kick field goals.
All right, last thing on this offense, Adam. I know you're excited like I am, right? 3 catches for Miles Sanders.
Yeah,
I know it's just 17 yards, but hey, they threw the ball to the running back.
Actually, a couple flare passes. I'd have to find out if they were actually called or checkdowns, but no, that was good. Actually, 4 of them. Yeah, it was good to see. Yeah, Sanders' hands have really improved. I mean, his conversion rate from targets to receptions is very good this season. As we put those numbers out on our pregame show. There's the pass attempts are significantly down. Avant made a great point because now, before Goddard got hurt, you've got AJ Brown and Goddard now full time at tight end. You're probably not going to be throwing the ball a lot to the backs, and plus, Hurts now doesn't check the ball down like it was last season. We checked the ball down a lot last year,
right?
Not this year because as we know, the first 7 or 8 weeks, they're mostly a passing offense, but all of a sudden, folks, they're running the heck out of it.
All right. Let's talk about the Eagles defense. Before we get into that, we're going to hear a quick word from our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook.
Game night for me is every night. At the place where I meet up with the guys, grab a cold one, and watch the big game on the big screen. So whether it's the money line, the pass line, or a parlay, I'm in it to win. This is my city, and this is my place.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook, host of the Inside the Birds pregame live show. All right, the Eagles defense, or lack thereof, just not a lot of it today. So we kind of felt that after last week, what a great job Linval Joseph came in, helped solidify the defense or rescue it. Same thing with Ndamukong Suh. But, Adam and I were texting each other during the game. I mean, Linval Joseph was moved quite often when he was out there. And the Eagles, once again, had real issues with stopping the run. Adam, we talked in the pregame show about the diversity of this run game compared to Indianapolis, which is like Jonathan Taylor and Jonathan Taylor and Jonathan Taylor up the middle, where you were getting hit with Aaron Jones, you were getting hit with AJ Dillon. There was like ISOs, there was quick swings out to him, there was draws, there were sprints. There was a whole variety of a zone inside and outside, and that clearly gave this defense a lot of issues again.
Yeah, Milt Williams also got moved. You could actually see it off the TV. Slow it down. I did. I was able to see it. I have slow motion capability on Fios. And Joseph actually got stood up. That's what happened. He got stood up, which is the cardinal sin for a defensive lineman. But you didn't see that last week against the Colts.
Right.
And Milt Williams, I don't know why he was out there. I didn't quite we'll have to check into this, why he played as much as he did early in the game. But yeah, they gave up about 5.1 yards per carry to the running backs, which is not good enough.
Right.
You can't have that. It did cost them a little bit, and I wonder what would have happened had Rodgers not gotten hurt. Now he obviously had some issues throwing the football. Obviously the pass to Cobb was amazing. Oh my goodness, what a laser that was! But look, they knocked him out, and boy, Jordan Love. I mean, he 3-step, 5-step balls out, and he was very accurate. But let's get back to the tackling. It was the gap control is horrendous. It was actually, Jeff, it's very similar to the first series against the Colts.
Yeah.
Huge gaps. And remember, Aaron Jones's touchdown got called back on, the line. It might have been Jenkins. Might have grabbed
no, that was the worst call I've ever seen in my life, man. That was like, Elton Jenkins was so good at his job that the referees couldn't believe it and called a holding.
He
planted Hargrave on the ground, fell on him to tell him all about it, and then the referee is like, "Well, that can't happen in real life, I guess." So let's throw a flag. I don't understand.
But again, they've got some with gap integrity. This is a tape thing, a correction thing, not the end of the world. And then we just a couple more notes here. I'm not sure if it was so much missed tackles, but they got crushed on some traps.
Yeah.
They also got on the outside zone. So I'm interested to see what they do here, because this is 2 straight weeks where you go, what? It was kind of alarming, but because Green Bay got behind so much, they wound up having to throw a little bit.
Yeah, Trey, what happened?
When it comes to the run game and its gap integrity, do you think it's because the players are trying to do too much? You know what I'm saying? When you're trying to make a play, or you're trying to be a little too aggressive, instead of just saying, all right, you know what? You have A gap, I have B gap. And you know what I'm saying? To me, sometimes when it's gap, because to me, defense is it's all about gap integrity. And you start to see breakdowns when guys are trying to do too much, when you're not trusting your guy to be where they're supposed to be.
So who do you think doesn't trust whom?
I don't know. That's the thing, because like when I started studying defense a couple times, to me it just seems like when the defense when they're over pursuing, or they're over, you're not trusting that guy to be there, or if linebackers say, you know what, I'm going to take the A gap, but you're supposed to be in the B gap, or whatever that situation is. To me, it seems like it's a lack of trust within the guys, because it's all gap integrity. If everybody just plays their gap, then you shut everything down. Mm-hmm. But when you start trying to overcompensate, then that's when you start seeing breakdowns in the defense, especially in the run game.
Yeah, I can't wait for the All-22 to come out. I feel like we've talked about missed tackles, especially in the secondary, a lot. I don't recall I feel like the running backs, Dillon and Jones, had some pretty good space there at the line of scrimmage that enabled them to get into the second level. So that speaks to what you're saying about gap integrity being an issue, and maybe trust is a part of it. And Trey, maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe it's the issues that have been pretty prevalent for a year and a half now that is leading guys to not trust each other, because this team is not. They've gone through some spurts where, like last week, where you've seen them do a better job, but it just seems like when a team is committed to running on them, they can get some pretty big runs on them, and I don't know if that's going to stop anytime soon. Yeah,
but I don't expect secondary. To me, I wouldn't want secondary to be the ones that's stopping the runs, because every run play is designed to get the running back to the safety.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So every run play is drawn up and schemed up to get the running back to the safety. But we need defensive linemen and linebackers to beat those blocks so that that running back doesn't get to the safety clean. So, what are we doing that's causing the downfall? Because I can't expect Slay to be out there stopping the run. We got King Henry coming. I mean, do you really want Slay taking on Henry?
No.
Do you really want the other cornerback?
I remember Asante Samuel, so I don't want to see.
No,
they don't want that. They don't want that trouble.
The Eagles did get 2 takeaways, though. They got one from Josiah Scott. They got another one. Who was the other one who had the interception?
Blankenship.
Blankenship, of course.
32.
By the way, that was kind of a veteran move there.
That was a big time. That was a huge momentum changer. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kevon Wallace must have been looking from the sideline. He would later have to play when Blankenship lifted off. But, I mean, Blankenship made more plays in his first real, outing than Kevon Wallace has made in about 3 years now.
Man, that was an amazing play because I'm sitting there with Brian Dawkins in the suite and you're talking about it. And we were watching this play, and Brian Dawkins was like, dude, like you have to understand, just coming in, you saw the starter go down and you step out there, and that was the second play. That's the second play on the field, and he jumps a route and gets an interception. Like, that's a confidence play right there. You're playing with confidence to step out there and make that play. And Doc was talking me through that, and I'm like, man, and we all had to okay, wait a minute, who was that? Who was 32? We had to pull out the roster and check out who that guy was. What is it?
Blankenship. Reed Blankenship from the powerhouse Middle Tennessee State University.
MTSU.
But to be fair, Trey, and I don't know how much you were around the team in OTAs and training camp, but it was pretty.
I don't go to training camp.
Exactly.
No.
It's pretty
I didn't
obvious.
like going to training camp when I was a player, so I don't.
So you don't even want to go as a spectator.
No,
I get it.
No.
It was pretty obvious early on that the coaches liked what they saw from him in OTAs, because Adam and I recall going to some training camp early, first week or two, and he was getting some second team run ahead of Kevon Wallace, ahead of even Jaquaski Tart at the time. And we thought, wow, that's pretty significant that a rookie free agent was getting that time. And I want to say, Adam, by about a week or two before our 53-man roster projection, which we had him on the 53, we were starting to get the vibe and sense that this kid had done enough to really impress the coaches. And man, what a great way to make a debut. You pick off Aaron Rodgers like that.
Yeah, actually, what happened was, you just mentioned it, the reason why he made the team, the coaches were so impressed with his intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
They want a kid who's smart, who could be coached, and if you had to play him in a pinch, he could handle it. The mental part of it, just not a great athlete, but he's really smart. And I mean, it's only one game, so who knows the next time he has to play, whether he can do the job. And who knows now with Gardner Johnson's injury, which really looked bad, a rib injury, by the way. And then Patrick Johnson left with an injury. But big one is CJ Gardner Johnson. And it looked bad. He was disoriented because obviously when you get hit in the ribs like that, Trey, I'm assuming when you get really, that was scary to watch that. Have you broken ribs before, Trey?
No, that's no.
That's a little man.
I've never broken a bone.
Really? Good for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, never broken a bone. I've torn some cartilage, but never broken a bone.
Do me a favor, just knock. If you have any wood, like a wooden table, just
wood
knock
right
on
here,
it
knocking.
for me,
I'm
because
knocking.
I would hate to after the show's over, you're walking down the stairs and
I broke a bone.
jinx yourself. No, that's good stuff. That's a good point, though, Trey, that Adam's making, is that this is not an area that the Eagles are particularly deep. In fact, they had a trade right before the season just to get Gardner Johnson to play there, and he's playing out of position. He leads the team with, I believe, 6 interceptions. He goes down. Blankenship comes in. Nice story, but, now the tape on Blankenship will be out there, and I'm sure whatever they saw, the other team will try to exploit. But now you're really kind of thin at that position, and you're losing the guy who was your key takeaway guy. So is this sort of an area of concern for you going forward?
We'll see.
You don't want to get too far ahead, right?
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead. I'm just enjoying the night.
Although, because the only guy, just get a little preview of Tennessee here. Treylon Burks, their first round pick, the Titans. He had another good game. It's two
Yeah,
back-to-back
good player.
really good games.
Mhm.
He's really their one guy who you're worried about because he could run.
Right.
But to me, get your hard hat off. You know what's coming in here with and Henry has not really gone off lately. The last couple games hasn't really done much, but the key here is just to play smarter football. They know what's coming. This is a big coaching week to get these guys to do it. What Trey's talking about was hero ball. When the guys don't, they try to play the gap that's not theirs instead of playing the one that's theirs. The hero ball is bad because that's when you get beat, and it's going to be tough. Watching that tape, I mean, I know that they didn't run it a ton, but when they did, the running backs run for 5 yards a carry from 20 carries. That's not good. That can't happen.
No doubt about it. All right, that'll finish off the defense. Well, actually, real quick, Jordan Love came in through the nice slant, play action slant to Christian Watson for the touchdown, made it close there for a hot second. Do you have any criticisms of I'd say the defensive play call there, because they got Watson lined up against, I think, Blankenship in the slot in sort of a man coverage look? Was that what I mean, it's easy to criticize now, but in general, did you like the game plan for Jonathan Gannon, Trey?
I'm not at that time. I'm not sure where I was.
Okay, all right. You might have been.
Just in general, I think
right.
that again, there are so many corrections that need to be made. Because again, they don't blitz. All right, so you're gonna have to make some corrections because I mean, going and getting ready, whatever you have to go back and watch because as we move forward, teams are going to continue to run on us. And so that means that our offense is going to have to put up big points. So you need to go back and look at whatever Cincinnati did. What did Cincinnati just do? Whatever they did to go out there and shut down the run, that's what we need to be mimicking because it's a copycat league and we need to kind of mimic whatever they just did.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if they can do that. All right, let's go. We'll move on to just a few more things before we get out of here. I want to stop and let everybody know about our friends from Sky Motor Cars.
Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, big thanks to our friends at Sky Motor Cars. If you visit them in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You'll get a great deal. If not, check them out at SkyMotorCars.com. Also want to tell people to make sure they're checking out PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto, so make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. All right, raise your hand if you're just like exhausted watching the Eagles special teams.
Yeah,
I mean, this is just
embarrassing.
It's getting worse and worse by the week, man.
Sirianni can't cover for it anymore. It's embarrassing.
It's bad.
It's about as bad as I've seen it. I mean, maybe 20 years of coverage. It's you're just expecting them to have terrible coverage teams. Terrible. I mean, this is embarrassing. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, their integrity on there. The Nixon kid. I mean, he averaged 35 yards a return. I mean, that just can't happen. I mean, it's week after week. I guess the hope is they only give up one bad return. I mean, that's kind of like the best you could hope for. I don't understand it. I mean, I just don't understand how this could happen. Teams don't return much anymore, but it's like if you're the opponent, boy, you really hope to return it because you know you have a good chance to give yourself good field position.
Trey, do they need to start playing some starters on special teams to rectify this?
Man, that really puts you in a bind then because I mean, because really, who are you going to play out there? For real, let's be real. Like, if you had to play a starter to go out there and play
Kaiser White,
TJ.
Listen, you asked me a question. Malcolm Jenkins used to play on the coverage.
Yeah, but that's a safety. Yeah, I don't know if you put TJ out there, to cover kicks, and then have to go out there and quarterback the defense.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how you're going to, because it's such a kickoffs and all of that special team stuff it's a unique position and a unique group, because you got a bunch of guys that that are on there because of special teams, and and it can be schemed up, and it's different blocking schemes and all that. And you know what? I'm not going to speak too much on it because I don't understand it a lot. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
Just because I used to sit in a lot of hardball meetings and just watch, like, all right, there's a guy looping from the other side of the field that's coming over here, that's coming to block. And there are a lot of schemes and stuff that I really don't understand, so I don't really want to get into it too much. But I think that there's something that has to be said, because, I mean, it is the weakness of our team when you look at what our special teams is doing on the field.
I mean, there are some times where you wonder if the other team didn't make some big special teams plays, would the game even be as close as it was? And maybe even this game is one of those examples. The first their return that was 38 yards set up a touchdown, and 38, that's almost half the field at that point. So you're only one big play away from getting to the other side of the field when you get a 38-yard return. Yeah, so something's got to be done.
Patrick Johnson got hurt. He's one of their top guys. Reed Blankenship plays on coverage teams. He got hurt. We know how good McPherson is. Sachre is also very good. But yeah, they do not use starters on special teams coverage. Yeah, so Trey's right. It's hard to do it. It's hard to use guys who are playing like every play, like TJ Edwards. But man, this is it's like, you come out of a bye week, you expect things to be better in certain areas.
Yeah,
this thing has been bad all season. It's progressively got worse, by the way.
It has, and you just wondered, you listen, the Packers, ironically, are the poster child for having these great teams that win 11, 12, 13, 14 games in a season and then lose in the playoffs, wild card round, divisional round, conference, because of special teams. So that's why I brought it up. It's sort of ironic that it came against the Packers tonight, but it's really been an issue for them all year long. And if we're sitting here after a playoff loss because kick got returned for a touchdown or three big returns or a setup, 3 score, that would be terrible for this team. The way this
how do you correct it though?
I don't know,
because I know there's a lot of technique that goes into it. But you can't drill it full speed now, especially at this point in the season. There's no way to drill it. So I know that they go out there and they do their little practices a little bit before the game, before the practices, and then you have a little part of it that's in the middle of the practice. But it's one of those situations that a lot of time is not devoted to that part of the game just because of how much time you have to put in on all of the other parts of the game plan.
Yeah. You're right. Don't forget, it's not just been the coverage either. We've seen, like today, this game, Elliott misses an extra point. We've seen fake punts twice get executed against the Eagles. So I would love to sit here and say that maybe you get a little hustle, a little bit more design, a little bit more technique, but it's sort of a widespread issue for them. The punter has not always been great as well. So a lot to work on in that department. All right. Last thing, Landon Dickerson limped off the field there in the fourth quarter, apparently, and was replaced by Andre Dillard, but then he came back, right? Okay. So it's not as bad. This is the thing with Dickerson. He comes in and out of games quite a bit. I was just surprised that it was Andre Dillard at left guard and not either Jack Driscoll or Cam Jurgens.
Wow. That was stunning to me. I guess we put this out before the draft that they were strongly considering giving reps at guard for Dillard. And when we heard about this, I was like, why would he's just not a guard? Now, obviously, if Stalin believes he could play guard, hey, okay. But we had talked to other teams about if they saw Dillard play guard, they said, no, absolutely not. He's a left tackle. And who doesn't want to play right tackle? So I don't see, but when you pointed this out to me in the game tonight, I started looking at it. I just remember people being vehement about it. We spoke to before and after the draft. He's not a guard. He's not strong enough. He's just not built for it. But they talked all about, Jurgens, we're going to cross train him. Okay, well, and then you've got Jack Driscoll. Like, really? You're not going to put him in there? Okay.
It may just be simply, Trey, that Dillard is the only one of the Jurgens, Driscoll, Dillard trio that is truly comfortable on the left side. I think, they don't love Jack Driscoll on the left side. He did have to play left tackle earlier this year. And Juergens has only played center, and I think he played some right guard in training camp. But Kelsey was hurt in training camp, had that surgery, so he really played just center. So maybe it's just that, as simple as that. I don't know.
Yeah, just someone that's comfortable with being in a left-handed stance. You know, I would have much rather seen Cam go in there at left guard, you know, but because at center, I mean, you know, you're used to playing with your post foot on both sides, you know, just because of the position that you play. But you know, it didn't hurt us.
Right.
So we made it out of there. All right, cool. But I don't think that Dillard is, if something were to happen, I don't think he's the long-term fix to be in that left guard, just because of the power that you have to have at guard. It's a little different. And I just, like you were saying earlier, I don't think that that's something that he possesses.
All right. That'll be the final word on this game. Again, the Eagles win 40-33. We will all be back next Sunday a lot earlier, as the Eagles have a 1:00 game against the Tennessee Titans, and there should be plenty to talk about after that game. So for Adam Caplan, Eagles Hall of Fame tackle Trey Thomas, I'm Geoff Mosher. Thanks all for watching Inside the Birds Postgame Live.